My husband is 42, I'm 35. For years, having children was all we talked about. We wanted a family more than anything, 2 boys and a girl. But his health issues turned that dream into a medical battle. His fertility kept declining, and doctors warned us that if we didn't act soon, he might never have biological children at all. So we went through treatment, endless appointments, hormones, procedures, a crushing amount of money. He was the one who pushed for it. He wanted children desperately. The idea of never becoming a father terrified him. I agreed because I loved him and because I believed in the life we were building together. And it worked. 6 months ago, our babies were born. They are perfect, fragile, loud, exhausting, real. And my husband hates them. Not openly, not in ways that leave marks, but in the way his body stiffens when I pick them up, in the way his mood darkens the moment they cry, in the way he glares when my attention shifts away from him and toward them. If I'm feeding one of them, he sulks. If they wake me at night, he gets angry that I'm not in bed with him. If I'm soothing them, he mutters that I'm hovering and obsessed. He said it out loud more than once, that I love them more than I love him. He acts like our infants are rivals. The babies cry whenever he's near. I swear they sense something in him, a tension, a hostility. They're only 6 months old, but every time he enters the room, their faces scrunch in panic. I tried to talk to him. I told him that bonding takes time, that not every parent feels connected instantly, that we could figure this out together. I asked him to spend time with them, to hold them, to be part of us. He brushed me off. He said I was imagining things. He said I was dramatic. He said this wasn't what he signed up for. He complained that I was still breastfeeding, even though we're on mixed feeding, even though he's had every chance to help and simply doesn't. He doesn't touch them unless he has to. Every day he comes home later. Every weekend he finds reasons to leave. He avoids us. I looked through his phone. There are flirty messages between him and a woman named Jessica. I don't think anything physical has happened yet, but it's heading there. I said nothing because I'm scared. I have no income. I haven't worked in 2 years. Every cent I had went into bringing these children into the world. My parents are gone. My sister lives in another country. I have nowhere to go. I lie awake at night listening for his footsteps, wondering who this man is. The man I loved wanted children more than anything. The man in my house now resents them. I want to save my marriage, but I'm terrified that maybe it shouldn't be saved at all. People online told me to watch him more closely, to stop assuming this was just stress, to really look at how he interacted with the babies. I wish I hadn't needed that advice. A few hours after I posted, I was sitting on the couch, exhausted, scrolling through replies while the house was quiet. The monitor for the nursery sat beside me. I glanced at it out of habit. That's when I saw him. He slipped into the baby's room and stood over the crib. He leaned in close, so close that his face almost disappeared from the frame. At first, I thought he was whispering something gentle. Then I realized he wasn't soothing them. He was hissing. I couldn't hear every word, but I heard enough. I hate you. You ruined everything. I wish you were dead. Then he reached into the crib and pinched my son. Not hard enough to bruise, not hard enough to make him cry. That's what shattered me. My baby didn't even react, which meant this wasn't the first time. By the time my brain caught up with what I was seeing, he was already walking back down the hall. I jumped up and met him at the bottom of the stairs. I don't remember what I said. I don't remember what he said. I remember shouting. I remember shaking. I remember him denying everything and then changing his story 3 times in 10 minutes. We argued for hours. The neighbors called the police. When the officers arrived, they told me there was no visible injury and no recording. The monitor streamed live. It didn't save footage. There was nothing they could use, but they did convince him to leave for the night. He stood in the doorway and looked at me like I had betrayed him. Since then, he hasn't stopped calling. He cries. He apologizes. He says he's depressed. He says the stress broke him. He says I misunderstood. I told him to go to hell. I spoke to a lawyer. She told me not to block him, to let him keep talking, to let him incriminate himself. I took the babies to the doctor. They're healthy. No marks, no damage. I've started documenting everything, every message, every voicemail, every apology that turns into blame. I don't recognize this man, and the worst part? I don't think this started with stress. I think something inside him snapped the moment the children became real. The man who wanted to be a father disappeared the day he had to share me. A few days later, he showed up again. I hadn't invited him. I hadn't answered his calls. But when I came back from the store with the babies, his car was in the driveway. He was inside, standing in my kitchen. He acted like nothing had happened, like we were still a family. He was unpacking groceries I hadn't even realized he'd bought. He smiled and said he just wanted to talk, to fix things. Every instinct in my body screamed. I kept my voice calm. I told him we couldn't do this, that he needed to leave, that we'd speak through lawyers. He said I was overreacting. He said I was imagining things. He said I was destroying our family over one bad night. I went upstairs with the babies and locked the door. He followed. He stood on the other side, talking softly at first, then louder, then angrier. He said I was keeping his children from him. He said I was cruel. He said I was sick. He said I was ruining his life. When I refused to open the door, he tried to push it. That was when I called the police. What happened after is blurred by adrenaline and fear. I remember him grabbing my arm. I remember hitting the wall. I remember pain blooming across my face and head. I remember screaming while trying to keep my body between him and the cribs. It took 25 minutes for the police to arrive. By then, my face was swollen. My lip was split. My head throbbed. My arms and ribs were already bruising. They arrested him. His brother bailed him out. Now he's living with family. I've changed the locks. I've installed cameras. I'm in the process of getting an emergency protective order and sole custody. I walk through my own house like it's enemy territory. Every sound makes me flinch. I don't sleep. I replay everything in my head and ask myself how I missed it. How I married a man who could whisper hatred into the ears of his own children. How someone who begged for these babies could become their predator. The man I loved is gone. In his place is someone I'm afraid will come back to finish what he started. And I am done pretending this is just stress. This is who he really is. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought once he was gone, once the police were involved, once the locks were changed, there would at least be some kind of fragile calm. I was wrong. He didn't stop calling. He didn't stop texting. He swung wildly between begging and blaming. One moment he was crying, saying he loved me, saying he was sick, saying he just needed help. The next, he was cold and venomous, accusing me of ruining his life, of turning everyone against him, of stealing his children. I answered only once. I told him we would communicate through lawyers. He replied that any future conversation between us would be handled properly. His parents hired him an attorney. His father came to my door. He didn't apologize. He didn't ask if I was okay. He hinted that this could all go away if I stopped talking about what had happened, if I stopped telling people, if I stopped damaging their family. I realized then that they knew. They knew what their son had done. They had seen my bruises. They had read the police report, and they still chose him. I started telling everyone. My neighbors know his face. They know his car. They know to call the police if they see him anywhere near my house. My sister knows everything. Friends know. People at the store know. I refused to be quiet. Silence is what keeps people like him safe. The more I dug, the more the truth surfaced. I finally contacted the woman he'd been obsessed with. She was afraid of him, too. She told me about the messages, about the calls, about the way he talked about me and the children like obstacles in his way, about how he believed he could have a future with her if he could just get rid of us. She sent everything to my lawyer, hundreds of messages, voice notes, rants and fantasies, threats. That was when the last pieces clicked into place. This wasn't stress. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't a man overwhelmed by fatherhood. This was someone who had decided that his family stood between him and the life he wanted. Someone who was capable of hurting babies in the dark. Someone who had already crossed lines most people never even approach. I don't know how close he came to killing us. I don't know what he would have done if I hadn't seen the monitor that day. I only know this. I am not saving a marriage anymore. I am saving my children, and I will never be quiet again. The court granted me emergency custody. The restraining order followed shortly after. For the first time in months, I slept with all 3 babies in the same room, their cribs pulled close to my bed, the soft rhythm of their breathing anchoring me in reality. Every sound still made me flinch. Every car that slowed near the house sent my heart racing, but the law was finally on our side. I installed cameras in every room, motion sensors on every door, a security system that stays armed even when I'm home. I learned how to document everything, every call, every message, every attempt at contact. My lawyer told me I was building a wall, brick by brick, and that one day it would be tall enough that he could never climb it. His parents tried once more. They said he was sick, that he needed help, that this was all a misunderstanding. I asked them one question: would you leave your grandchildren alone with him? They didn't answer. That told me everything. The man I married is gone. Maybe he never truly existed. Maybe he was just a mask wrapped around something rotten and dangerous, waiting for the right moment to surface. I stopped asking why. There is no version of his story that makes whispering death to sleeping babies acceptable. There is no explanation that turns cruelty into a mistake. There is no excuse for someone who sees infants as rivals. I used to think strength meant holding a family together. Now I know it means knowing when to walk away. I am not a failed wife. I am a mother who chose her children over a man who became a threat. My life is smaller now, quieter, harder in practical ways. I count every dollar. I plan every step. I am tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. But my house is safe. My babies laugh. They reach for me without fear. And every night, when I lock the doors and check the cameras, I remind myself, I didn't lose a husband. I saved 3 lives.
That's where the story ends. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this story in the comments. Subscribe to the channel and see you next time.